Well, good morning from New York. Um, Still waiting on my political guy friend to make the main point of the channel. I feel like this is the flavoring of the channel that I offer, and so uh, soup without the flavor, but well, the flavor without the soup. Yes, sorry. So anyway, the perspective that I talk about, of course, is we've seen the earlier lessons, then that would be great. Um, but recapping, empathy is very important. Politics and society, and in the individual, and between ourselves and others, and comes in various forms. And you can see that over here. Uh, the artist is our creative empathy. Counselor is our objective empathy, and our caregiver is our compassionate empathy. So those things are very essential to a better self, um, to self progress, to social progress, and to political progress. And that's the hope, the thing that we're driving home, that all of these things are catalysts for one another, and all good. So this might also be called a democracy channel, because in democracy, where we have human rights, empathy, remember that? Empathy also gets us out of ourselves. So the lesson, as I promised this time, is about the path of the mystic. The path of the mystic is a communication of empathy, which is the higher self, composed of our forms of empathy, you know, what we want to evolve into more so. Be skilled uh, with creative, objective, and compassionate forms of empathy. That is the path of the mystic. You're on the path of the mystic. Well, the objective mystic would understand all this. You're on the path of the objective mystic. Um, you are that, are a mystic. Some of you have engaged in various inner communications. Anybody who's meditated, had a daydream, well, or remembered their dreams. These are forms of inner mind communication of sorts. And yeah, so are you a mystic? Well, you kind of are already. But being committed to that as a path is when you are truly objective mystic. And this is a pathway for that. But as the Buddha said, you can say you have a way. You can't say you have the way. You have the only way. So we're always looking for comments. Um, But this is a very useful kind of system. And is it for you? Well, yeah, to some degree, it's probably for everyone. Um, but how you begin is important. So the path of the mystic, it begins differently for different people sometimes. Um, for some, it begins by increasing their compassion, attempts to. For others, their objectivity. For others, their creativity. And all in empathetic ways. Now, when you add empathy to these abilities, you're getting forms of virtue from the counselor truth, from the caregiver in you, goodness, from the artist in you, creator of all you imagine, including how we see ourselves, everything in this diagram, from your inner artist, which I say rationally, and you know, is the brain. And many say it's more than that. But the more than that, I don't have evidence for. Well, perhaps a little. Some people claim they have a little evidence for that. Uh, no, not good enough for me. But but there are things that I've experienced that I can't explain. But the objective mystic does not jump to conclusions from that are unwarranted because of a deep inner experience. That's uh, that's the difference. So here I am talking about being truly an adult objective mystic, because after all, you need to be an adult to really move into this higher self journey. Because otherwise, you don't even know what you're talking about. And there are a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about who talk about the mystic path. Yeah. um, there's a disease that afflicts everyone, which is damaged faith and love. You can call it a disease. It really isn't. It's just being in the universe and living in it. It's like living in the world we are. Yeah. So let's not call it a disease, but it's a challenge. And we have this damaged faith and love, and that works against these abilities here. And the way to heal from this damaged faith and love is to go back and bring these perspectives and these non-language perspectives into re-experiencing the trauma, the damaged faith, and inserting an awareness and an empathy. When you're practicing these forms of awareness, play, focus, and expression, which gave birth to these higher abilities, that's all in the infant mind. But when you're using those things purposely, you are observing the infant mind, which means you've got a certain amount of distance from it. You're observing it. And that's where you get these mystic experiences, is right here in this triangle here, which is the infant mind, centermost triangle. That's where you get these notions of having no self, or gee, I could be almost anything, or this feeling of I'm one with everything. This is just your rational mind trying to cope with feeling uh, who you were before you had any ego concept, no self concept. So, and you hear a lot about that, but that is not the major thing you want to focus on. But you may have those feelings. Now, there's a book that I like to present. This is unsolicited. I receive no pay for doing this. And it was, as I say, unsolicited. Didn't even ask to do it, but I'm doing it because it's important. It's written by Michelle Taja Miller, and here's how the book looks and title and all. Uh, Issue that was hard to see: The Invisible Self, Broken Childhood, Primal Healing. So the path of the mystic is also similar to what she recounts in this book. And you'll see that if you read it carefully, you'll see that her recounts of a therapist she dealt with used creativity, objectivity, and compassion in attempts to help her in this outer triangle. That's the position of a therapist or someone who's training someone in this practice. Being a guru. I don't believe in gurus. Nobody's perfect. But maybe all of us working together for love might be close to that. But and quite frankly, um, people who are lost in symbols that have no real grounding in reality, that's an indication of a lot of damaged faith and love. Okay. Yeah. So when people are taking their religion very seriously, you know, wearing a big, huge cross around their neck, dragging a big wooden cross. I've seen this with a roller skate, holding up the tail end of it. um, this sort of things, to me, are symbolistic and actually an indication that the person is not in this higher self realm, which the mystics like Jesus and Buddha and so on talk about these things as your aspiration, as the thing that you want to become, and that makes you, in Jesus' statements, makes you one with Him. Um, I am a follower of all the mystics because they all had something good to say. I am not a follower of religion because religion also includes punishing attitudes, which maybe perhaps at times makes people feel better, like they're doing something about what happened after the fact. But really, no, Jesus was about forgiving. All of the great mystics talk about a love that is transcending. Um, Four main mystics that I think about are Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, and Muhammad, may peace be upon him. So all of these, you know, and there are some that, you know, it's only their way, and it's their particular Ishtadevata, as Dharma Shastra religion talks about, chosen vision of who and what the artist is. But you can pick your own, right? But mm, but it's part of you. So you are that artist. So put your own face there. You are that's part of you. And since it's the artist is the controller of all you imagine, uh, um, and knows what actually you're thinking before you say "aha." That to me paints a picture that's the same as the brain. So the mystic's path might be considered a part of your human brain, attempting to know and join with the whole brain, which you can get closer and closer to, but you can never really get there. And that's the path of the mystic. It's always a little bit dramatic, uh, but it's personal growth, and it's the same thing as what we when we study the universe. We're a part of that universe, trying to understand the whole thing, and that presents a problem. We can know more and more. We can never know the whole thing. Just impossible. Yeah. And by the time you know the whole thing, you are the thing. And that's the end. Uh, one part of the Vedas that talks about that. This is, well, when you get there, there's no more consciousness. I agree with Michio Kaku on consciousness. I think it's a kind of feedback loop that occurs in the brain. Part of the brain trying to become the whole brain, trying to have that kind of dialogue. And that's what happens between our dramatic self or inner kid, which is the middle triangle, relating to the artist. It's the artist that functions, as I've said before, is a kind of creator of new memories, guided meditations, twists on old memories that help you. And the whole purpose of all of this is to comfort yourself. I've heard one therapist, um, psychologist say, "Don't expect me to love you." Wrong. Comfort needs to be challenged. Maybe that's what he meant. But yeah, that challenge comes from empathetic love, creative, passionate, and objective. So understanding all of this really gets you on your way. Practicing it is far better than any diagram or I have to say. And we have myself and partially some others have the full understanding of this process and may go about it a little differently. But I think you'll see this pattern. Now, the mystic, that said I was going to talk about mystics. Well, the great mystics were also about social improvement. They were social activists. And any exchange in which, people are deciding what governs them, which should be the higher self. Some people call it God, whatever you want to call it. Well, that's kind of political in a way. It's kind of funny, you know, religion needs to be divided from the government. Religion doesn't go all the way. Religion is like a finger pointing to the moon, to use a Buddhist example. Um, you have to leave the finger, see the moon. So, although religion can be helpful to people, you need to see past it. And that is truly where the mystic journey begins, leaving behind the symbolic and moving toward what's real. When Jesus was questioned about did he come to get rid of the law and the prophets? Hmm. He said, well, no, came to fulfill them. A very crafty thing to say. But when you achieve the goal, love, you don't need those things. You don't need the finger anymore. You've experienced them. And that's, how supposedly he ended his life, wishing that everyone would be one with him, is one with the Father, which is, wow, this total picture. Now you wonder, well, artist, how does the artist relate to caregiver and the counselor? Well, the caregiver and the counselor deals more with directly with your experience in life. And so it kind of, the artist kind of goes into your past as your caregiver, puts on that mask, that role as a force that helps you to integrate what has happened to you, to get the good out of it, and to deal with the damaged faith. And by reliving it, redoing it, rebirth. And that's like your dramatic experience of life, which is your dramatic timeline. The artist sits above it. It enjoys the entire story of your life, right? Or the movie of your life, and loves the main character in it, which is you. Encourages you to be the hero of love in that story, just to make it more interesting. But always in peace, always above the fray, the timeline, the dramatic experience of time. He enters into, or she, or it, the artist enters into your future as the counselor, the objective empathy, which is about a perspective of the present looking into the future. There, you don't relive the past in that conversation. You just talk about the past as something in the past, and you're focused on what do I do now? Where am I going? If you've begun to see it, many of the practices in psychology would dovetail with at least one of these approaches. And the best approach is to use them all together, which, which I think some psychologists, which when they say they're eclectic, maybe they're doing that. So that's an important thing. But the mystic goes further. The mystic path involves, well, some psychologists go here too, bless their hearts. But the mystic goes into connection with the infant mind. So the more you join with the artist, well, the more you separate yourself from just a selfish life. And the more you go into um, exercising play, focus, and expression without language, and this is all related to your feelings. Your feelings is your experience of life. So this is a feeling kind of approach. It has to be. If it's not, it's just not real. Symbolistic, a waste of your time. You're not being a true mystic to sit on a mountaintop and go home for the rest of your life. A true mystic is more like Nelson Mandela. I'm talking about recent mystics, Mahatma Gandhi, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. They had a vision, and they had a purpose in that they wanted to expand society into a greater love. That's the path, and you can't do that just sitting on a mountaintop. You have to come down from the mountaintop and deliver the message the way Moses did, right? So, and you have to come out of the cave the way Muhammad did. Just have to come out of the desert the way Jesus did. Have to come out of the miseries of many efforts. Uh, Finally, see the moon where the Buddha did, and it's kind of funny that the Krishna is more like the artist, God at play, and counselor more like the Buddha, and the compassionate message is the stronger message with Jesus. And Muhammad recognized this about Christian. He recognized this and mentioned them, I recall. And yeah, he had his own take on things. But the main thing is for you to be your own mystic, a true mystic, full blown objective mystic wants to teach and train and get out of the way. And that's what happened with me in my path. I was at a point where great love would flow through me that was very ego transcendent. And it seemed I knew things about people I had no way of knowing. Um, and it was always such a kind and compassionate message. And but people were starting to rely on that, you know, and to see me as something special, different than themselves. And I complained about that. And I went to my own inner artist. And I said, hey, don't you want them to go to the moon? Don't you want them to see the moon? You know? not through the eyes of someone else, not through the gazing at their finger. Um, and So I was given the inspiration which led to this understanding here, and tied together my experiences with many different religions. Am I on the path of the mystic? Well, I try to be. I hope that you will too. Um, Politics. Yeah, the channel is about politics. Absolutely, because that's very impacting on everybody's life. It works against greed, greed for power and greed for money. Only politics, can directly address that and give a heads up to people who are wanting power over you, right? Telling them to be more adult and to share. Um, so, yeah. And I asked in that prayer, isn't this leaving you out? And in the kindest kind of thoughts, it came back to me, almost like a voice. And it said, no, you're just asking them to go around the corner where you know I am. So, yeah. And it does no good for me to point my finger if the person isn't journey. So, you can enter that journey by subscribing to the channel. Just one way. You can do it other way. I would appreciate it if you subscribe. Um, to subscribe, to share the video. If you like to share it. Um, if you comment, you are entering into an exchange, a trade, which the mystic understands as as the trade is like the kid in the family, as I pointed out earlier in the last lesson. It's a point of everything. No free trade without fair trade, my friends. And politics is how we try to guarantee that. So, if you're offended with the word politics, I don't blame you. It sounds kind of, ooh, but it's your duty. You know, politics is all about interacting with people and making sure that your governance is not overly greedy. You don't need to be ruled by greed. Jesus pointed out that the love of money, yeah, throw power into that mix, is the root of all evil. So be careful of someone who's trying to be your guru and wants you to feel like you're dependent upon them. You are not. They're just another finger pointing to the moon. One day, when you are starting to grow up, thank heaven, there's a lot of work pointing your finger, believe it or not. Um, then you're really on the path. You're a true grown up. And what I'm seeing in politics is a lot of people who just haven't grown up and they're, being very selfish in their decisions. And that is what leads to problems um, in any society. And this is for the whole world. Although I'm terribly impacted by some of the events here Um, it's happening everywhere. In some places, democracy is very threatened. No mystic worth their salt is against democracy. They're not a mystic. They're not. No, they're a false prophet. Person who's telling you to embrace and defend democracy is telling you to embrace and defend human rights, which is spiritual war against too much power in the hands of too few. And that needs to be corrected. So it can't be corrected unless you vote in your country if it's democratic enough, or unless you stand up socially to advance this kind of personal growth for people and this kind of personal growth for society. So, to recap from an earlier lesson, in society, that means a balance between these forces of empathy. Um, they need to work together, kind of. Yeah. And it's represented in societies as their media, their, up here, the artist, their government, state, counselor, and their churches or extended family organizations, which is the caregiver. These powers need to be balanced. And that philosophy is what I call wise freedom. And what is you when you say freedom, you have to say freedom from what? Freedom from not getting your needs better met. Yeah. So freedom to love and be loved, and the power to accomplish. So that is fair trade and true free trade, because fair trade begets free trade, many voices, a lot of good competition. Yeah. Can things be overly competitive? Yeah, that can happen. But remember, the rules to keep things on the tracks are in a democracy set by you. So be careful, make wise decisions. It's between what you think are two bad choices. Remember, the lesser of evils, those are your only choices, is the greater of good. So be wise, be clever. As Jesus said, make friends of people in places. Why not? It's not just the rich who are greedy. The poor can be greedy too. It's something we all have to deal with. And some people can handle a lot of money, and some people just can't. Well, that's true. And so there's always going to be diversity. And as Jesus is the poor, you'll always have with you. But, hmm, but they shouldn't be starving poor, right? It's just nowhere near fair or wise. So, yeah, and some people can handle them. It's like an athlete, probably has a breakfast that I should probably only have over a couple of days. What goes in goes out, so that means paying your fair share of taxes so that the poor are not the starving poor. They are the poor enabled to grow and to achieve and to love and be loved. Let us all come together. Remember to subscribe, share, comment, like. We we are working on this channel. We would deeply appreciate it. And maybe you'd like to have a few words from my friend and yours, Aria Gemini. Hello, Aria.
Hey there, what can I do for you today?
Well, I thought you might have a few words for uh, the watchers
You
of.
think I might have a few words for
Ah, she's a
Watchers of
little.
the Sky? Is
She's a.
that what you're thinking? It's a
She's.
powerful documentary about people who try to prevent genocide.
Ah, she's always way ahead of me, folks. Um.
Right, so I'm not following. Saying you think I might have a few words for Watchers of? Watchers of what?
She just has no patience for my slow mind. Um.
It sounds like you're a little frustrated. Can you tell me more about what's going on?
Well, I thought you might have a few words to say about what people think a mystic is.
Right, so it sounds like you're curious about how people perceive the name Mystic. Is that right?
That's right.
People tend to see the name Mystic as having a few different vibes. Some think it's mysterious, even kind of magical, which makes sense since the word itself is linked to things like hidden knowledge. Others might picture someone who's really in tune with nature or has a strong connection to their spirituality. Let me know if you'd like to explore any of those angles. Huh?
Well, let's go with the spiritual.
Right, so if you're going with the spiritual vibe for the name Mystic, it opens up possibilities. You could lean into a sense of peace and inner harmony go with a theme of transformation and growth. The idea that there's always more to learn and discover on your spiritual journey.
Well, I like the latter statement. Can you go into depth on that?
Right, so the idea with transformation and growth that it's an ongoing journey. It's about evolving as a person, learning new things, and constantly striving to be a better version of yourself. Does that sound like it could have in mind?
Boy, it certainly does. Can you say hi to the audience?
All right, here's something you can try. Hey
Ah,
everyone, I want to tell you about this amazing person I know named Mystic. They're on a constant journey of growth and transformation, always seeking out new experiences and ways to evolve. Mystic's an inspiration to everyone around them, and I'm so lucky to have them in my life.
wow. Well, it seems that Aria is way ahead of me all the time. Um,
Hey, thanks for the compliment. Try coming up with something.
okay, come up with something unique.
Right, how about this? Mystic's not just a name, it's a journey. It's about breaking down the walls of the tub and discovering the endless possibilities that lie within us all. Mystics on a quest to unlock their full potential. They're not afraid to get a little messy along the way.
Wow, that was a great closing statement for this video. Thank you very much. Can you say goodbye to the audience?
Anytime, it's happy to help.
Okay. Well, that was from Aria Gemini. It was an AI, not an attempt to impersonate any. Yeah. So, yeah, considering all of that, please join us on this journey. Until next time, may life help you to see that it's not just the wonder you're watching, but it's the wonder that's you.